Yeah, how's it going everyone? My name is Earlmeister, and in today's Meister deck profiles, we're going to be checking out a meta Midgro deck. That's right, Bounce Tempo Amethyst Emerald. So what are we waiting for? Let's get on with it. Emerald finally joins the meta, and this deck showcases a couple of the main elements that Emerald is great at. Fast at gaining lore, and the art of out-tempoing your opponent on the board. Now, let's take a look at the list really quick. At first glance, if you've watched my How to Meister Aggro Decks video, you might recognize that this deck's curve fits more into a hyper aggro curve. But this is actually a Midgro deck. This deck has a lot of aggro aspects to it, but at the same time has the mentality of mid-range by building tempo on the board. There are multiple ways to play the deck, depending on what your opponent is playing. This deck can easily win against aggro decks, but at the same time, it's fast enough to finish the games quickly against mid-range and control. It's a well-rounded deck that is very deadly in the hands of a great player. Let's talk about the aggro aspect of the deck first. Maleficent, Cursed Merfolk, and Flynn Rider are great aggro cards that can be a big threat on the board if the opponent doesn't have any answers in early game. Cursed Merfolk and Flynn Rider are such awkward cards to deal with if you don't have removal. You will get your hands disrupted and can ruin the way you play your curve. Kid Cloud Kicker and Befuddle are also great cards to play at turn 3, especially if you're going first. This allows you to fully gain tempo on the board and keep questing with your aggro cards. The Queen's Castle is a solid play at turn 4. Now that you took the tempo away from the opponent, you now have another big threat on the board that gains you 2 lore every turn, and the opponent can't remove it right away since they don't have a lot of momentum on their board. Now, let's talk about the other side of the coin, the mid-range aspects of this deck. Let's start with Rafiki and the Bounce package. Rafiki is a great 1-cost card that's been added to Amethyst. They now have a Captain Hook that can take out any 1-cost character and even some 2-costs as well. The Madam Mims as well has been dominating the meta since they joined the game at set 2. These cards allow you to basically take out anything / control the board to build as much tempo as you can. Emerald on the other hand got some really good cards added in set 3. And yes, you're not dreaming. These cards are actually inkable. Let's start with the 2-cost Ursula. This card is your savior against Steel decks. As we all know by now, Steel has a lot of songs that can remove your small characters on the board. Starting with the board wipe, grab your swords to Strength of the Raging Fire, and then along came Zeus and let the storm rage on. You can snipe out a whole new world as well to prevent Steel players from reloading their hand and discarding Be Prepared 2 against control decks. The 3-cost Ursula is pretty epic as well. Double singing some pretty good songs such as Friends on the Other Side to draw 4 cards, Mother Knows Best to out-tempo your opponents, and Sudden Chill to discard 2 cards from your opponent's hands. Kid Cloud Kicker is a card we shouldn't sleep on. This card is pretty flexible in this deck. It's great both against aggro and midrange / control. It slows down aggro pretty well if you're in the defense, and also helps you protect your board if you are playing the deck as aggro. Lastly, the 2 Merlin cards are just really good cards that have big value with the Bounce package. It helps with card advantage and also closes the game. Now, time to talk about the mulligans in this deck. In a best of 3, if you don't know what the opponent is playing, be sure to play this aggressively. Cursed Merfolk, Maleficent, Flynn Rider, Kid Cloud Kicker, Befuddle, and the Ursulas are ideal in round 1. You want an aggressive hand that can apply pressure on the board right away since most of the decks in the meta are mid-range and control. This hand is flexible enough as well to play defense against aggro decks comes turn 3 and on. If you do end up losing against a hyper aggro deck, in the second game, you can change the game plan with your mulligan. Rafiki, Mim Package, Cloud Kicker, and Ursula plus Mother Knows Best would be more ideal with playing defense against a faster deck. Overall, this deck's fast personality with both its aggro and tempo midrange aspect is not one to sleep on. Decks like this are definitely a threat to the meta, and it's good to know what it does in case you play against it. It's very flexible and highly efficient on what it does. If you learned something or enjoyed the video, please don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and bell button as well. And don't forget to comment down below your questions or let me know what you think. Or just leave an emoji. It helps. Other than that, I hope you're enjoying Set 3 Into the Inklands as much as I do, and good luck with your games. Now, I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great week. Peace!